Hello everyone, and welcome to the extreme hardcore procedural texturing using MaterialX. Okay, I know it's a stupid name, but I guess it's better than procedural cliff texture in MaterialX. Anyways, before we get started, the Black Friday sale is currently on my website, and it's 40% off on all Houdini trainings from now till 3rd December. So if anyone's interested, the link is given below in the description for my website, and you can pick up if you find anything interesting. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so first of all, this is not a beginner level tutorial. I'm expecting at least that you have seen the previous noise maps tutorial that I had made for MaterialX, and you have some basic knowledge of warps in general. Okay. Because we're not doing anything complicated, but it is going to be a fairly large node tree. Okay. Okay, so this is our final result. And just to look at it, if I go over to the Houdini GL mode, you'll notice that it's just a plain grid. Okay, so the entire thing is just displacement texture and some color gradients. Okay. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to make a new MaterialX subnet. So I'll just type in subnet and you'll get something called as Karma MaterialX subnet. So just take that and we'll call it Cliff lesson. And I'm going to jump in. By default, it doesn't really have any kind of a shader applied to it. So we'll just take a standard MaterialX shader and just connect it to the surface output. And now I'll come up to my LOPNet. The setup is fairly simple. I just have a grid which is about 10 by 10, and I don't need this. I've given it UVs, but you don't need them. There's a single dome light with an HDR. You can take anything that you want. That's my material library, and I will assign the material, so which is Cliff lesson. And then I have my renderer. Okay, now for this one, we're sticking to CPU for a simple reason. The CPU updates the displacements in real time. If you switch over to XPU, it doesn't, like every time you make a change to the displacement, you have to restart the render, so which is very irritating. So for today's lesson, we will stick to CPU, but the same thing can be rendered in XPU. Like in the end, you can render it in XPU, like without any issues. Well, except that if I use a curvature map, the curvature map isn't currently supported by XPU. Okay, so let's jump in. Let's just do a render to see what we get. So there you go. So you have like nothing right now. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take the size of our grid and use it to generate a ramp. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to generate like a slope, which we can then sort of modify using a float ramp to shape it like a cliff. Okay, and then we need to add some noise to it so that it looks more like a cliff. Okay, so to get started, we just need to worry about the displacement for now. Okay, we'll worry about the coloring later. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is type in position. Okay, so you'll get a MaterialX position, and I'll just pause the render for now. And what I need to do is I need to type in separate. So you'll get something called separate vector 3, and we want the x-axis. So let's just take this in, and then I want to take a range. Okay, because by default it'll just be like, it'll give me like 0 to 1. Our ramp is based between 0 and 1, but what we want is our grid is like 10 by 10. So that means we want to go from -5 to +5. So I'll plug this in here and I'll go from -5 to +5. And then I will type in float. So you'll get something called as MaterialX float cubic ramp. Don't take the float ramp because the float ramp is linear and you can't change it. Okay, so make sure that you take, the cubic ramp. Okay, and so plug this in, and then as a final thing, I need to just take a multiply so we can control the height of this. Okay, so this will be our cliff shape, and then I'll take a constant, and this will be our cliff height. Okay, so plug in both of these, and I can just plug this into displacement. Okay, now let's just start the render. So the one thing you want to do is, which I sort of done it earlier, is make sure that your display material is on. Okay, because I sort of turned it off temporarily. So now that it's on, take the cliff height. The default constant value is 0, so get it to 1, and you'll see that we just get like a simple ramp. If the material range is between 0 and 1, this is what you'll end up getting. So you just get like this, which is not bad, like, which is technically it gives us a cliff, but we want a little more control. So we'll give it to -5 and +5. And now I can take this and shape it. Okay, so I'll just keep it like that here, and I'll just keep this a little slopey like that. Okay, like this one I can keep it slightly higher, and now press Shift P, and there you go. And then I can take the cliff height and I can get it higher, so you have your basic cliff. Okay, now the next step is I would like to add some noise to this. Okay, so pause this, and we're going to take, we'll type in noise, and we'll take a fractal noise. So just type in fractal and you'll get fractal 3D. Now, if you have seen the previous lesson, if you've seen the noise maps lesson, I showed you how to build the basic control node tree for controlling the rotation and the frequency and the offset, and then save it in the toolbar or in the shelf. So the nice thing is once you save it to the shelf, if you type in the name of that particular tool, it will show up in your tab menu as well. Okay, so if I take the noise control, I will pretty much get what I want. Okay, so what this is I have my position, and then the add gives me offset values, the multiply gives me frequency, and there is a rotation node that is ready-made in there. And plug this into position, and then I'll also take another multiply and take a constant, and this will be, we'll call it noise intensity, and just plug this in, and for now we'll keep it to 1. Okay. And then make sure that your fractal noise is kept to a vector 3, and this will add to my position. Okay, so if I just take this in here, I'll just take all of this and move it back and plug it in, and press Shift P, and you'll get this. There you go. So now what I can do is I can just lower the intensity a little bit. Maybe I can get the frequency to around 0.5 in each. Yeah, there you go. That's not bad. And then I can take the lacunarity and increase it a little bit, and then up the octaves. Yeah, I think this is nice. Okay, so this gives me my basic cliffs. Okay, now let's just do one thing. I want to push it back a little. Like I want more ocean. Like this is like midway. So let's just come to my cliff shape. If we want, we can start to color some of these. So I'll make these yellow. Like the ones that are main controls, I'll make them yellow. So I'll just take this, and I want to just move it back a little over here. So press Shift P. Yeah, there you go. I think this is nice. Okay, so now the next step is I want to make the waves. So if you want, let's just label this. So I'll press Shift S. I'll take this guy. If you want this particular file, this will be available on my Gumroad for $10, so you can pick it up from there. If you buy it right now, you'll get the 40% discount as well. Okay, but provided you want this, because you're following the tutorial, you should be able to do it. So I'll just call this as cliffs. If we want, like, we can right click here, and I can take the text size and make it medium. Okay, so now let's make the waves. Okay, so I'm going to take a Whirly 3D and like pause this, because problem is that every single node you drop, it restarts the render, whether it's connected or not. Okay, so that it ends up just eating up a lot of CPU power. Okay, okay, so just we'll take in another noise control node, and let's just plug this in. And what we want is frequency wise, let's make it like 2 and 2 and 1.5. And we will also duplicate this. So let's just duplicate these two. Let's call this as wave height, and this plugs in here, and we'll like lower this temporarily, and let's plug that in over here. Okay, and render this. Okay, that's way too much. Let's try to adjust this. So we'll take let's bring this down to 1 and 1 and 1. Let's make this 0.5 or 0.3. Okay, I think this is fine, as far as waves are concerned. Okay, what I also want to do is I just want to distort them a little bit. So let's do one thing. Let's duplicate this guy. Like all of this, I can just duplicate this. So Control C, Control V, just drop it in there, and take an add before like the offset, and I can plug this in here, and you'll get this. Okay, now lower the noise intensity, and also we want to probably lower the lacunarity a little bit. Okay, this is fine. The problem is MaterialX doesn't really have a lot of noise maps, so it's a little restricted that way. But once it gets a few more noise maps, life should be better. The great thing about this particular lesson is that you should be able to follow it in any render engine that you want. Okay, so whether it's Redshift or Octane or Arnold, because they all have good displacement capabilities and a lot more noise maps than this, you should be able to make this quite easily in those render engines as well. So I'll just rename this to waves. Okay, now we need to blend these two together. Okay, because we have like two separate maps. Now what we want is we want these waves to fade out, as they come to the edge. So I can take this cliff shape, okay, and I can multiply it with my wave. So if I take this in here, and I can multiply this over there. So what will happen is, you'll get it here. But if we take a complement, so we take a MaterialX complement, it will flip it. So what will happen is you'll just get the waves in this area. If we want, we can build a slightly better one, but I think this is okay for now. Like if we want, we can take, we can take this guy, we can probably duplicate it. Like let's say if we wanted to fade out, a little bit more. Yeah, I think this is better. No, this is fine. Yeah, so the waves kind of, fade out a little bit, and then we can just adjust the wave height. Yeah, okay. I think this is like from a particular angle they show up. They don't always show up very well. Now we can mix these two together. So what we do is we take an add, and we're going to add our waves and the cliff. Okay, so just take this, put this in here and that in there, and plug it into the final displacement. And there you go. So you have your basic cliff and waves. Now let's do one thing. Let's take a look at the color. Okay, so what we want to do is coming in from the material range, we're going to take a color ramp. Okay, so take a color cubic ramp, and I'll just press Shift P over here temporarily. This I'll call it cliff color, and this comes in from here. And then I also want another color cubic ramp, which will be from this point. So this will be the wave color. And let's bring both of these in here. And then I also I'll blend them using the cliff shape. Okay, so we'll set up both of them separately, and then we'll blend them together. Okay, so let's just bring this in, and I'll just set up the basic colors first, and then I'll do the rest. Okay, then I'll turn on the render. So let's keep it green, and then it'll be like gray. And then we have the beach color, which should be like a sandy something. And then we want the ocean. Actually, you don't need to get the ocean because we'll have like an ocean shader coming in. So let's just get rid of that. And then if I press Yeah, if I press Shift P, and there you go. So you have, this. Let me just adjust this. Yeah, let's also take this in and move it a little bit. Yeah, there you go. That looks nice. Okay, that's not too bad. Just play around with it till you find something that you like. Okay, now the next one is the wave color, so I can just drop that in. Let's give it a couple of colors first. So this should be simple, right? I'm going to take like a light blue and a dark blue, and maybe just squeeze it in a little bit. So these will be like waves, and then I can just plug that in, press Shift P, and yeah, there you go. So you have like waves. I can make this slightly darker, not that dark. Okay, I think this is good. And now we take a mix, and the cliff shape comes in here, the cliff color and the wave color, and then plug that in, and there you go. Okay, so now what we do is we just have to adjust it so that it is, it blends in properly. So this should be a little bit further on, and this should be here. Maybe this should just go down, or we'll just pick another point here and bring it to 0. Yeah, that's not bad. Okay, let's just do one thing. We'll just adjust the waves a little bit. So the frequency, I'll make it 0.5. Yeah, and what I can do is I can take the fractal and maybe, add a little more. Okay, I think that's fine. We can just take this and adjust it a bit more. Like, let's just press Shift P. I want the waves to push back a little bit. Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's good. Okay, now let's take care of the third thing that I want is I want some rocks here. So what I can do is I can take another Whirly. So Whirly 3D. I'll just pause this, and I'll just pick up, like this much, plug this into the position, and let's take this and bring it into the displacement. Okay. So I'll just bring it in over there. And what you want to do is, first of all, frequency wise, it should be a little higher. So 1, 1, and 1. And it should also be reverse of what this is right now. So take a complement, and this will reverse it. So you'll get this. Okay, now let's just take a range so we can adjust this. So take a range here and maybe adjust it like that. Switch on do clamp. Yeah, and so we can just sort of, actually, yeah, keep this to 1 and take this higher. So there you go, you'll get something like this. And maybe we'll add in a noise map into this as well. So let's pause this, and I'll pick up this again. So the noise, it'll just give it like a little bit of distortion. Yeah, press Shift P, and okay, just lower the intensity. Yeah, that's not bad. That's okay. Let's just lower the diminish. Okay, this is fine. Not the greatest, but it'll work for now. And then let's just put in like a multiply here, or we can just adjust it from here. Like, we'll take the out high and lower it so that it's just about that much. Okay, and then this will add into this point, okay, after the cliffs, but it should only be in like a small area. So we will duplicate the cliff shape again, and we'll call this as rock area. Okay, there's some construction work going on the side, so I sadly can't do anything about that. Okay, let me just try and move all of this out of the way. Okay, and what we're going to do is we'll take a multiply here, and the rock area, we're going to just modify it to be something like this. Okay, and plug that in over there. And then all of this comes in here with an add. So if I've done everything right, and if you look at it, I should get this. Yeah, there you go. So you have like some basic rocks, over there. And as a fun exercise, what we can do in the end is we can try to use like the curvature map to add some additional detail on top of it. So what I can do is I'll just pause this and I'll type in curvature. Now you get the karma curvature map, but it doesn't work on its own. Like what it needs is it needs a position and a normal node to be connected in there. So what I did was I made a basic setup for it, okay, which is nothing. It's just the curvature map with a position and a normal node. And I'm going to plug that into a color ramp. Okay, so we'll take a MaterialX cubic color ramp and just plug that into the base color. Yeah, so if we press Shift P and we'll get this. So now what I want to do is just make some minor adjustments to this. So I'm going to take the bias and make it 0.01 for the convex scale and get rid of the concave scale altogether. And you can try to take the space from -1 to +1, so it will be like a black and white. That's pretty much it. This is just for fun, right? I'm not going to do anything detailed with it. I'll make the color ramp like a gray to black, and I can take an add, and we can just, add everything together. It actually doesn't look too bad, like the waves look nice. And so the advantage of this, more than anything else, is that if I come into my grid, like I'll just pin the viewport and I just start to adjust the size of this. So let's say if I make it 20, see, it automatically scales up like without any issues. Okay, and if I make this 50, you're going to see like a massive, so you basically just generated like cliffs and ocean. So without really doing too much of work. So if you add like a few more textures to this and everything, you could actually get a pretty good result. Okay, so final tip, if you want to improve the quality of your displacement, select the Karma render settings, come to geometry and shading, and at the bottom you'll find something called dicing quality. So if we increase that to about say 4, you'll get better results. Yeah, so that's how you can generate procedural cliffs using MaterialX and textures. And that's pretty much it.